Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. One of Plutarch's very short works in ethics is his On Virtue and Vice, and in it he's making a sort of extended argument for why we ought to be virtuous and why if we are vicious it's not going to go well for us, so we want to move away from vice towards virtue. And we could say that the linchpin for this shows up very early on. It has to do with how people think about what it is to live pleasantly and happily. In Greek, heleos, zein, kai, heleros. These are two adverbs describing the way in which you're living. You're living pleasantly, that is, with plenty of pleasure in there, and happily. He doesn't use eudaimon, he uses heleros instead. And where do a lot of people go wrong? Well, he's going to start out with this really interesting metaphor. People think, you put on clothes and that's going to take care of you. He says that clothes are supposed to make you warm, but what really makes you warm is your body, right? So if your body is too cold, putting clothes on isn't itself going to be helpful. The warmth a man gives off from his own person, the clothing confines and enwraps. Well, our own conditions are like that, the condition of our soul. So a lot of people go wrong by thinking that I want to live pleasantly and happily. What do I need to do? Well, accumulate money or income or power, positions, rule over other people. He talks about, and this is kind of prevalent in his time, and social stature, you could say, houses, having a nice place to live, slaves, servants. We would probably talk about technology because we use our technology very much as servants in the present. And people think that if they have these external things, these things that are outside, exothen, that they're going to be happy. And it turns out that doesn't work that way. Why not? Well, he's going to go on and say, listen, a pleasant and happy life, in order to have it, you have to draw upon the source or the well, the peges of character, to ethos, the lasting character that you have. And this is a source from which to add, as he's going to say, the element of pleasure and joy to the things that surround him. So pleasure is hedone, just straightforward pleasure. Joy is charin. Now this is an important emotion in ancient Greek times. It means something like rejoicing, actually having a good time. So character is what allows you to have that. If you have bad character, it's going to be tough for you. And he's going to tell us why in a lot of cases. He says, wealth is pleasanter, repute and power more resplendent, if with them goes the gladness that springs from the heart, the gathos in the soul. And even if we don't have those things, if we have poverty and exile and old age, things that people consider bad, if we have virtue, we will be able to deal with those, right? We'll be able to deal with those lightly and gently without getting too angry, right? The word there is praoteta. Praotes is a good temper. So in the next section, he's going to talk about virtue. And he starts out with a very interesting second metaphor. We began with clothes. Now we're going to talk about clothes and perfumes. You can take a, kind of ragged outfit and have a nice perfume to make it, as he says, fragrant. But if your body stinks, not going to help you with that, right? And so what is the equivalent of the body here? Your soul, the most inward part of yourself. And he says that, virtue is going to make every occupation, everything that you're doing, deitia, and every mode of life, bios, is going to make it untroubled, lupos, not painful, right? And delightful, epiterpes. That's an old word that he's using there. So, that's a good way to live. On the other hand, vice is going to get you into problems, because vice makes these things that you thought were really great, that are splendid, precious, and imposing, once you get them, they don't turn out to be so good, because you can't actually be happy. You can't be satisfied. You can't be calm. You can't just rest in them. And he says, well, this is sort of like having a bad spouse. The man is deemed happy mid public throng, but he opens his door, he's thrice a wretch. He's quoting a poet here, right? His wife controls, commands, and always fights. And he says, if you have a wife, or, this could also go the other way, got a bad husband, you divorce him, right? You go to the court and say, I want to be rid of this person who's troublesome and making my life unhappy. You can't do that with the vices. Why not? Because they're part of you. You've allowed them in. You're stuck with them. You're going to travel. You're going to take them with you. He says you can't write up a writing of divorce and be rid of troubles and be at peace. The vice is a settled tenant, right? It lives there in your vitals, always, both at night and by day. And then he's going to give you some specific examples of specific vices and how they screw things up for you. So, in traveling, vice is a troublesome companion. Why? Because of arrogance, allodzonean, right? In eating, well, if you're vicious in eating, what's going on there? You're a glutton, and it costs you money, he says. It's a distressing bedfellow. You try going to bed, and what happens? You start experiencing what he calls anxieties, frontisi, and cares, and even jealousies, zelotupias. You're jealous of the things that you have. You start thinking other people are out to get you. That gets in the way, and you can't sleep. And if you're superstitious, if you suffer from desedaimonion, well, that's even going to screw up your dreams, he says. And so he says, in this kind of state, envy, that's thonos, fear, phobos, temper, thumos, and licentiousness, akolasia, those place the vicious person in those sorts of states. So our lives can be messed up by being vicious. And he's got an interesting little section about dreaming. He says, sometimes vices, you go outside, you don't want to show your vices to other people. The vice itself is a little bit ashamed of itself, and it might even be able to resist its own impulses during the day. So it's funny because he's talking about the vice itself being kind of in discord. What happens when you dream? Well, this is where you can go hog wild, and he refers all the way back to Plato. He says, in the hours of slumber, when it's escaped from opinion and law and got as far away from as possible from feeling fear or shame, it sets every desire stirring and awakes its depravity and licentiousness. What sort of things is it going to do? Attempts incest. Very bad, right? What else? partakes of forbidden meats, things you're not supposed to eat, abstains from nothing which it wishes to do, but revels in lawlessness so far as it can. So, if your dreams are all stirred up, well, maybe that's because you're vicious and you need to work on that. So, what's the sort of upshot of this? If you are vicious, trying to strive after all these things that you're telling yourself are going to give you a good life, it's not going to give you a good life. He says, where is the pleasure in vice? Where do you have it if in no part of it is to be found? And he talks about a number of different things that you want to have: freedom from care and grief, right? So if you're not merimon or alupon, not having these things, the is a privative. If you're not self-sufficient, being content with things, autarkeia, or if you're not untroubled, ataraxia, or if you're not at peace, or it's translated here as calm, hesuchia. If you're vicious, you're not going to enjoy those things, and that's going to mean that these other things that you're trying to enjoy are not actually going to be pleasant. And so he says that, what do we actually need here? Well, lasting joy and gladness are going to require of us cheerfulness. So being cheerful about the things that we're encountering, even if we don't have wealth or power or stuff like that. Fearlessness, not having fears in our lives. Courageousness or confidence. And calm tranquility. And so that's what virtue can actually provide to us. So he's got a really interesting analogy that he's going to make here between the vicious people and people who are sick and the pleasant things that they think are going to make their life good. So he says, hey, have as much gold as you want, amass silver, build stately promenades, right? Places where you can walk, fill your house with slaves and the city with your debtors. None of that's going to do you any good, unless you do something else. So he says you have to level off your emotions. You have to, bring them into proper harmony. You've got to stop excessive desires that you have, and you need to rid yourself of fears and anxieties. And if you don't do that, well, all the stuff that you have is not actually going to help you. It's sort of like a sick person who you give things to. He says, give wine to a man in a fever, give honey to a bilious man, make tidbits and dainties for people suffering from colic or dysentery. None of those can actually be helped by those. It actually makes them worse off. So, doesn't your observation of sick people tell you that they dislike and reject and decline the finest and costliest bits of food that their attendants offer and try to force upon them? But once they restore their health, then they can get up with joy and satisfaction in eating ordinary food, plain bread with cheese and cress. This is like, the most basic of food. Well, that's the way things are for us in life. So he says what we need to do is learn what the genuinely honorable, the kalon in Greek, and the good, the agathon, are. So there's a cognitive aspect, there's an emotional aspect, and then we have to cultivate the virtues. And if we do that, well, then we're actually going to be quite happy. He says that this is the condition reason creates in the soul. You can be contented if you know what the honorable and the good is. You can have all the nice things, like be a king, but you can be nobody, and you can be equally happy. You can have a ton of money, and you can be poor, but you can be happy. So he says, if you learn how to philosophize And the verb here is actually philosophesis, right? You should engage in philosophy. Then you will learn how to live pleasantly anywhere and with any resources. Wealth you can use effectively. You can give you gladness for the good you will do for many. If you're poor, well, you don't have all sorts of social obligations, right? If you get honors, that's nice. But if you live in obscurity, nobody's going to envy you because you've figured out the right way to live. So if you want to live pleasantly and happy, got to not just be virtuous, but also take out the vices that may have infected you and have a hold upon your soul.